started before you start adding on all these other things and you start coming up with these other ideas and spitballing and so on and so forth. So in my 10 to 20 ideas, one of them was this one right here. I didn't exactly have the title. I wanted it about comic books and things related to comic books and also the movies that are out there. But there's one person standing alone, of course, Larry from Colorado Springs, loves the world. You start talking let me tell you something, Larry, you start talking superheroes to him, man, his eyes light up and he has a smile a mile wide. And just, that's his deal. So I've always told him this little thing, and then we'll start getting into the information and things about the episode. So I would always tell Larry, I said, Larry, look, you know when you're not Batman, right? You know when you're not Batman. And he looks at me and he goes, well, why is that, Mike? And I go, because you're Superman. You don't need a partner. Ba-dum-bum. Right? You don't need a partner. Superman didn't need a partner. Batman, had his sidekick and everything else. Other ones that even listed in here have sidekicks. Well, that made Larry laugh. And like I said, Larry, again, from Colorado Springs, huge inspiration when it comes to the process of this podcast. All right. So I mentioned a number of times, just like people have spirit animals. Well, people have superpowers too. Maybe my superpower is the ability to go out and have a good conversation, talk with people. And then again, relating to this superpower. So having conversations, discussing anything and everything to everyone, right? Me coming up, walking into a room and saying, look, this is my arena of ideas. Let's have a discussion or whatever's going on. That's my superpower. Well, in here, you've got a whole bunch of amazing people, these amazing characters that were all thought up by brain trust and stuff. So superheroes phenomenon, the comic books, graphic novels, movie craze, and their Super Bowl, Comic Con. COMIC-CON. Also mentioning the merchandise and everything else. I mean, it's endless and boundless of what you can actually find when it comes to stuff from way back when, decades ago, from the 40s on. They have all kinds of collectors things you can do, from the comic books themselves and all those different things to action figures to everything. I mean, comic books and the comic book realm and the genre, amazing in what they actually have out there, right? They do. They really do. So the first comic book published was in 1897. The Yellow Kid in McFadden Flats was actually the very, very first comic book. If you have your hands on that, Lordy Lord, I'm thinking you could probably retire and then some. I don't know what the value of that is, and then I'm not here to speculate. I'm just saying the first of anything and everything, like a Honus Wagner card for baseball is like, the hallmark of the cards and everything, right? Again, it's considered the actual first comic book. Also had comic book on the back of it. The word comic book was actually written on the very, very back of it, coming up with the idea for the basis of why it was. Kind of like, Facebook. I don't do social media. I'm social media silent, but it was originally called The Facebook, and then trimmed down to Facebook. Okay. Anyway, self-moniker, basically its own moniker. Ironically, again, the first comic book also had comic book written on the back of it, giving it its marquee, giving it the statement there. All right. Comics Monthly. Let's see. Comics Monthly, comic book started in 1922, had newspaper comic strips, and that's actually where I remember basically seeing all the different things going on. You had 1,000,001 different kind of comic strips and things like that, and 1,000,000 different names. It would take the entire episode to actually list all that, right? I mean that'd be crazy. So comic strips as a whole, in 1933, Fumes on Parade was the color animation. Again, Fumes on Parade, whatever that was the color animation. The golden age of comics was from 1938 to 1956. There's the golden age of comics. Again, you don't have to take notes. You don't have to write all this down. This is just getting you immersed into this world of comics and comic books and everything else. Again, golden age of comics, 1938 to 1956. June of 1938 was the debut of Superman. There's a little information for you. October of 1939 began Marvel Comics, starting over in a few years. Human Torch, Angel, Prime Manor, Captain Marvel, Flash, Green Lantern, Wonder Woman. Let's see, Wonder Woman, 1.5 million copies in circulation even back then. I mean, look at it. Look at the population back then. I don't have the numbers in front of me. Definitely not as much as we have, not only for America, but for the world, right? So that is an awful lot. 1.5 million copies in circulation is huge. That's a lot, man. The Silver Age of comics and comic books and things. 1956 to 1970. Horror, crime, and romance were left off publication. The Bronze Age is from 1970 to 1985. The Dark Age, 1985 to 1996. Modern Age, 1996 to present. We're in 2022. And so from 96 to 22, that's like 26 years. And counting. And counting. I don't want to let down anybody out there. Okay, so Comic-Con. Comic-Con. I always thought it was something else until I actually looked this up. Comic-Con, it's like you almost think comma like a comma in a sentence. But you slow it down, it's Comic-Con. First in San Diego in 1970. Still going strong. All walks of life and all different styles of people and walks of life and everything else. From comic books, cartoons, animation, TV shows, movies, comic strips, graphic novels, and merchandise. Box office on superheroes is better than $3 billion alone. It's huge. And the Comic-Con is basically, Comic-Con is a convention, if you will. It's a convention that travels all the way around everywhere. It's a big, huge, usually in a big, huge arena or facility, things like that. And they lay everything out. Usually they have guests and people that are going to actually, famous people in different walks of life dealing with Comic-Con. Basically famous people and stuff are going to be there. And then you get a chance to meet those people, take pictures and do whatever else. It's just huge. It probably, excuse me, having some voice issues. Sorry about that, guys. All right. So anyway, what's happening is that that's what's going on with Comic-Con, the actual thing itself. It's like a tour, and they go through and they see different towns, and they have, schedules and itineraries, and they have different people that show up in different ones. So if you want to go out and see someone special, or you have someone your heart set to someone in mind, then definitely check out the schedules online. I'm sure they probably even have an app for that. Probably. LOL, but just the truth. All right. So anyway, the comic book industry is $9 billion. Overall estimated yearly income is probably well over $20 billion annually. That's a lot of billion with the B, right? Marvel and DC, two top earners for merchandise. DC is $4.5 billion and Marvel is at $10 billion overall. Just their brands, if you will. They're different brands. That's what they're at. All right. It's in the comic books. It's in the comic books rare and first editions that collectors, people that really love the product, love everything, right? Let's see. The collections clamor over at all Comic-Con events, not to mention collections, shops. You got collectors shops. You've got different book outlets that may have comic books like Barnes & Noble and brick and mortar and stuff. Barnes & Noble, and there's some other ones. Borders, I think, is another place that probably has a bunch of the comic books and stuff. But then, like in every town, you've got collectors shops and things like that. Specialty ones, local ones, and stuff like that. Please do support local business. By all means, please do that. Okay? So, anyway, not to mention the grip the internet has in a global reach situation, meaning that a long time ago, way back when comics and stuff first started, you didn't have the internet, you didn't have technology and all these other ways in which to communicate with people. You couldn't, you didn't have, like, let's say you had a podcast just dealing simply with all this, or if you had a website, or if you posted on all the social media places and everything else, and they have Facebook Market. I mean, there's all these different ways in which and things you can get the products out there now. You can reach everywhere. You can reach everywhere in the entire world. Comic-Con, just like birds migrating all over the world, seeking refuge. The droves of two-wheeled vehicles. Wheeled vehicles in a caravan to Sturgis. It's like two-wheeled vehicles going to Sturgis, right? In South Dakota. It's like this huge following, this everything else. It's a gathering of all the same like-minded people that all go do the same things. All right? The Comic-Con, also called the Super Bowl, is to football, is Comic-Con is to the extraordinary League of Comics. Conversations scattered across America. Conventions scattered across America. Excuse me. From the casual fan to the most intense collector, gatherers ascend upon in full regalia meaning they're all dressed up like their characters and things like that. You got people dressed up and doing all kinds of crazy stuff and interactions and probably some live action role play or who knows what, right? Collector's items hoping to meet the related special guests to whatever's posted as per the Comic-Con event, wherever it might be, right? Okay, so here's a few definitions and some things I'd like to throw out there that's going to tie in with this, all right? So, superhero, a benevolent fictional character with superhuman powers, right? And if you're out here listening and you already know all this stuff, it's okay. You just know this. Not everyone is as knowledgeable as you are when it comes to this process, right? Even me. I mean, I liked the Incredible Spider-Man when I was growing up, and a few other characters, and in different collections of the different comic books. But just bear with me. Supervillain, a fictional villain with superhuman powers. An antihero, or anti-heroine, is the main character in a story who lacks conventional heroine qualities and attributes such as idealism. So basically that's what a anti-hero is. All right. And in this whole thing, because Comic-Con is such a big part of all this, right? I came up with a little idea, and this is just me taking two different things and putting them kind of together. Like the octagon is synonymous with what? I mean, this is not all a sports quiz or anything, but basically an octagon is related with what sporting event? Mixed martial arts or MMA, right? Where they get in the octagon and they battle it out. Well, I came up with a little idea on my own, and you guys should get a kick out of this. But anyway, I call it the Comic-Con Octagon, right? Where it's kind of a battle. And even in the comics themselves and everything else, it's always a battle. So I'm going to list off the DC universe. I'm going to list off the Marvel universe. And after I put out these names, I need you to do me a favor. The whole octagon fighting part is a process in which it's you guys out there, and it's your decisions. If I mention one of yours on either side of this, it's, please get some feedback. It's an opportunity to get feedback using the email, word of